Not so beautiful. We're live.
What'd you say? I haven't got the hearing aid.
We are live. So I will read the preamble. Yep, that's right. And then I can read the preamble.
These 50s don't look like they've ever been used.
All right. We are now live, folks. And good morning, everyone out there. Today we're judging the 2019 AIPP Australian Professional Photography Awards, and it's the book category, sponsored by Memento Pro. My name is Craig Wetchin, and I'll be your panel chair for this session, and I have the lovely Sue Lewis as my scribe, and I want to thank all the print handlers, especially Jan, who's over here, is going to be doing the book flipping for us. So thank you very much, Jan. So our judges, we have in position number one, one over here. Oh, it just doesn't, they can't see us anyway. So we've got, that's all they can see. So we've got Richard Bennett, Peter Eastway, Steve Scalone, Bill Backman, and we've got the wonderful Jackie Dean. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. So, preamble to the Book of the Year category. The winner receives a trophy, a framed certificate, $1,000 cash, $500 from Memento Pro credit, and complimentary entry into APPA in 2020. The Photographic Book Award is designed to celebrate and showcase photography in a printed publication where the photographs are the primary carrier of the communique. A photographic book can be defined as any bound collection of photos created or published specifically for public viewing. It does not include publications commissioned by individuals for private enjoyment, e.g. albums. Eligible content can include travel, landscape, documentary, illustrative, commercial, portrait, or editorial photography. The book may be unpublished, self-published, or published by a major independent academic or cultural institution. There is no physical requirements other than that the pages or prints must be bound. This award is designed first and foremost to recognize the photography in the book, but due consideration will also be given to the visual narrative, design, topography, production values, and packaging. So, everybody in Cyberland has heard that. Our judges have heard that over a couple of times this morning. And we will, again, come back to thank Memento Pro. Memento Pro has so much new to share with you. Portrait format albums, cheaper custom embossed stamps, 4 more linen covers, PicTime partnership, InDesign plugin. And during the break, you have a chance to visit them at the trade show. And at the trade show offer, we've got 50% off studio album display albums, $30 swatch book, spit that one out, Craig, $30 swatch box deals, and a $500 voucher competition. So anybody out there in Cyberland is close enough to come down and visit us here at the racecourse in Randwick, please do. So visit Memento Pro. So want to hats off to Memento Pro and their sponsorship. So thank you. Woo. Absolutely. Clap out there in Cyberland. Fantastic. All right. Judges, are we ready to discuss? All right. So book one. So we've got a score of 85. And we have an opportunity to challenge. So Bill Backman sits at 92. You've got scores of 88, 83, 79, and a 85. So take it away, Bill.
This is a great example of the kind of photographic book we're looking for here, with a lot of creative input from the photographer. Books can be all sorts of things, but this is a little gem, I thought. It's a very, very... first of all, it has a terrific introductory statement, and the pictures in the book and the narrative in the book align absolutely perfectly with the artist's statement, with the photographer's statement, which is not always the case. It's a really interesting exploration of self. Very consistent photographic values all the way through, marvellous portraits, cleverly imagined, very clear messaging. It's a combination of sort of psychodrama, self-analysis and humour. And it's a really contemporary update of classic artistic paradigms. These are just the things that I wrote, but it just has a lovely feel to it, this book. It's got a lovely, simple, clean layout. It's got beautiful typography. We've been asked to consider all the values that go into making a good book, and this ticks quite a lot of boxes for me. I felt this was quite superior. 92 was my score.
Thank you very much, Bill, for your comments. I'm going to go down to the opposite end of the range with Mr. Bennett on 79.
Yeah, I like the book. I was impressed with the book. There are only 10 images in there, and I thought that the image number 6 let the book down just a little bit, because it's a very split profile, and my eye went right to that far side of the face where there's just a tiny little bit of eye and cheek beyond the nose, and I think that image could have been shot it from just a little bit further to the right, and that's what brought my score down.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Can I have a comment from somebody pretty high up there? So we've got Steve on 88.
Yeah, I'm almost there with you, Bill. I found it to be a really well-constructed and developed concept, which was extremely humorous as well, which is what I really enjoyed. The tonality throughout all the images were well handled. Perhaps the actual summary and the artist statement, the actual design of that was a little bit too claustrophobic. Perhaps it wasn't as justified as it should be in terms of centred, left-weighted, right-weighted, which is probably why I didn't go higher, but I'm always listening.
Jackie?
That's okay. I really enjoyed the diversity of the self-portraits. I thought they were very creative, and I really enjoyed the use of everyday objects. I felt that the type could have been justified as a block, rather than, if we can go to the type page at the beginning, please. You know, looking at it from a distance, if you look, even if she'd kept the type the same square as the images with the same border, it would have had a consistency to it, or even tighter, maybe less words. But overall, I felt also that I was enjoying the creativity of all these images so much, and it's a work in progress. I wonder if more would be monotonous. I felt that looking at this image, I felt that the project was complete. I scored it a silver distinction.
The score sits on 85. So Bill is asking for gold. Peter, do you have anything to add at all? No, nothing to add. So I'm going to go back to you, Bill, to bring it home and see where we can go.
Thank you, Craig. With great respect to Richard, of course, I think a small posing detail in one photograph is a very minor element and doesn't account for a difference in 13 points between our scores. So I think this is more about the, this is more about the persona and not so much about portrait perfection, although many of them have that element of near perfection. The good comments about the artist statement, the layout of it, but again, I think this is fairly minor. It might account for a point or two, but not overall. I think, and the number of images, it is small. It's a precious little book, and that's good. But I come back to the definition of a gold award: outstanding visual communication, interpretation, emotional impact, and technique. And I think this actually succeeds in all those areas, and it is one of the best examples that we've seen of original photography used in an interesting way in a book. So I do think this is worthy of a gold.
Thank you very much, Bill. Judges, please contemplate for a second, and you guys have scorecards with you, and can I ask you guys to hold up a new score or same score? Score for this book is now an 88, silver with distinction. Thank you, judges, and out there, this is how it works, and hopefully the audience, we've got a nice audience out the back, is enjoying the comments and the way we're going about this. All right, so next book. No challenges. Book scores 86, silver with distinction. So I'll just have a very quick comment from Mr. Scalone.
Yeah, the book, as soon as you start exploring the first few pages, have immediate impact. The viewer quickly realizes that it isn't just a picture book, it is about a very serious topic. I found that the message of the coal and the bleaching to be somewhat not as well defined as it should be. So perhaps having very well-defined sections could have really outlaid that message a little bit clearer, but overall, excellent result. The printing and the detail and the vividness about all of it was incredible.
Thank you very much, Steve. That's very helpful out there, and I think I got quite a few nods as you made some of that narration there. Very, very quick, Bill.
Just that we do have a little more luxury of time in this category, so it's fun to explore these books. I think, and in terms of offering constructive advice, excuse me, in terms of offering constructive advice, Steve kind of hinted at the fact that the tension between the man-made and the natural was, it became a little bit tedious, and it needed a little bit more variety, maybe drawing a direct line between the effect of man and nature itself. Maybe some human activity in there, something that just created a little bit more tension, because in the end, it felt a bit repetitive.
Thank you very much, Bill. Jackie?
Well, I saw some trucks in there, so I do feel there was some human activity. There were a lot of pages to look at, so maybe they were missed. I felt that this elevates the awareness of protecting our environment, and in many ways it mirrors Baraka. If you haven't seen the film, do see it. It's about our beautiful planet and what man is doing to destroy it. I thought there was strong graphic communication in this book, and I scored it a silver distinction.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, judges. So again, out there, this book scores silver with distinction at 86. So next book. This book scores a silver award at 82. So no challenges. Pretty much everybody was on the same wavelength. So, but I will take a comment from Peter Eastway.
I think there's great example of the genre, you know, getting together a number of clients, putting together a story, some photographs. There's some wonderful images in there. A very, very professional result. I'm looking at Playful Billy at the moment, and you know, the expressions. Obviously, the photographer and his or her team have got a great affinity with their subjects, and it shows in the book. And I think a silver award is ideal. I think it's just hits it right on the head.
Thank you very much, Peter. Bill? No? Jackie, do you have anything you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, I just think Man's Best Friend, wonderful collection of beautiful little pooches. I found the layout quite confusing and the typeface used. I felt too many typeface. But apart from that, I think all the dog owners would absolutely love it.
Thank you, Jackie. Richard?
There's also a strong message in here. This is asking people to think about the plight of dogs that turn up at Christmas or birthdays and then end up in the slammer, out of sight, out of mind, with nobody interested or caring for them. And they make such a wonderful contribution to our lives. From the time I was born, I've never been without the company of a dog. And none of my children or grandchildren have ever been without the company of a dog. Really are man's best friend. And this is a great advertisement and acknowledgement of what they do for us and our well-being. They even take them into hospitals and make sick people feel happy for a little while and help blind people. They make a better contribution to society than a lot of humans do. And cats. But we often see a pretty poor misconnection between a book in terms of shape and space and the pictures that go in it. It's almost as though nobody ever considered where a gutter goes or what it does. But in this instance, the photographs have been placed inside a horizontal shape that's designed for purpose. And I think it's very refreshing to see a book so well thought out and implemented.
Thank you very much, Richard. Good comments, good feedback. And again, Silver Award 82. So, next book has scored a 79 by majority. So we do have a challenge straight away. I have Jackie Dean on 90, and Jackie, you've got 88, 78, 76, and 77.
You know, I found this book so emotional. It brought tears to my eyes, and I thought it was an absolutely charming book. Great paper choice and layout and content. I couldn't fault it. I gave this a gold because I found it very, very moving. I thought it was beautifully laid out, very simple, a lovely little caption from each client or the client's the sitter's parents, and I just thought it was beautifully done.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm going to go to Richard at 76.
I agree that it's a very engaging story and well photographed, but why would you break almost every image with a gutter when you could have altered the shape of the book to accommodate the shape of the images? It's very distracting. Every time you turn a page, almost every time, the picture is broken up by an unnecessary gutter. I think that is what that is, in fact, what has brought my score down below the silver.
Thank you very much, Richard. And now I'm going to Steve, you were at 88.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I am with Jackie and with Richard on this one. In my notes, I had written that in parts the actual image had been split far too close to perhaps a couple of heads down the spine and into the gutter and that type of thing, which was a distraction. However, in order to keep that consistent flow of the layout of the book with the correct wording and the design layout, I felt that it was essential instead of perhaps making the image smaller, and then that would have then become the distraction. To me, it was a really outstanding, light-hearted collection of animals and children. Each one was custom-made for the subjects and the actual clients, and the actual animals itself. There were subtle little things like the font choice, which was delicately yet beautifully done. Each one has a colour change that directly relates to the image on the opposite page. And it's just really nice little touches like that, which elevate the actual production values of the actual book itself. The font choices and even the wording, the way it was all done, was really well thought through. With such a large collection of images, everything, of course, there always needs to be compromises, but I feel that the actual publisher did a really great job on that one. So I scored it a solid silver distinction, 88.
Thank you, Steve. Bill?
Yeah, look, clearly this is a book which has polarised us, and I think in the end it's not about the qualities of the book. It is an outstandingly well-produced book. It's not to say there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just personal preference. I thought there was really consistent presentation throughout. It's the perfect book for a particular audience, a family audience. For mine, I just found the studio approach to this a bit sterile, and in comparison with a similar book that we've seen treating animals in a natural environment, my preference goes to the latter, and so I'm just stating that as an opinion rather than a fact, because the facts of the book are very strong.
Thank you very much, Bill. And yeah, we'll go back to Jackie.
I take it on board, Richard, what you're saying. I feel that the overall feel of the book was so strong that didn't concern me. And regarding the studio, I thought, well, how fantastic to get an animal in the studio, and for every single image in that book, there's a great picture of that animal with the person. I just felt it had a wonderful consistency.
All right, judges, we will ask you all to take those comments on board. And so it's scored by majority 79. Jackie is asking for gold. And I'd ask you guys to re-score, please. All right, by majority, this book scores 84, silver award. Just leave it there? Leave the book there? So we will, I think we don't have the cards, so we're going to ask you guys thumbs up, whether this goes up 1 point from an 84 staying at a silver, or does it go to silver distinction? Nope, stays. Silver award, 84. Thank you, guys and lady. All right, so next book Sahara, we've got a score of 76 with the challenge, or well, if he wants to challenge, Peter on 81.
We'll have a chat.
So
I'll challenge. Yeah, of course I will. Yeah, if
Yeah,
I've
of
scored
course.
at 81.
Yep.
The notes that I basically thought was that it was a wonderful and thoughtful presentation. I'm not quite too sure whether black sandpaper is quite right, but not having been to the Sahara, maybe there are areas there where it's dark, or maybe that's an intentional observation. I mean, there's so many different quirky little things that I guess I gave it 81. It's a low silver, but I wanted to reward the photographer for the idea, the way, because this is, after all, the book category. I think that a tighter edit would have produced a stronger result. I think maybe the images could have been larger on the page rather than that size. So there are certain design things that I would do differently, but that's my personal point of view. And I thought, sitting back and being a judge and trying to be a little bit more independent, I thought the photographer has tried to achieve something, and I think he or she has successfully done, at least it's challenged us. It's, you know, some of those sand dunes are absolutely beautiful shots. They're let down by some which are not so strong, again, subjectively speaking, and maybe, I guess my main criticism is that a tighter edit would produce an even stronger result.
Thank you for that, Peter. I'm going to go to Jackie on 72.
Yes, I was a little bit harsh. I think probably for the same reasons as Peter's mentioned, but I felt the finish on the book. I know it's a quirky thing. It's the gaffer tape on the back, and I suppose and the choice of sandpaper. I actually found it quite edgy to touch. It's a bit like, you know, people don't like having their nails filed, and so it wasn't pleasant to go through. But the images are absolutely beautiful. Really strong photographic content in this book.
Yep, Steve?
Yeah, I'll just quickly add to that. I enjoyed the concept. I gave it a 75. I just feel that it needs more development, more of an edit, as Peter has mentioned, and keep working on that concept.
Thank you. Bill?
And in the context of book here, this was really sailing close to the wind for me. This looked whole lot more like an exhibition in miniature to me, an album, if you like, and it suffered from a sort of sameness, which has been mentioned. Also, what we would expect to see in a book is some kind of text, some kind of explanation as to what we're looking at. I had a couple of ideas. You could have actually done some, put some text on paper and pasted it onto the flip side of these pictures. You could also have mixed up the kinds of sandpaper that were used so that it wasn't all black. It could have been a much more interesting book visually for if the photographer had really let herself go on this one and just gone crazy, because it's kind of halfway there, but it hasn't reached its potential.
Thank you, Bill. Back to you, Peter.
No, I think they're good points, so I'd probably bring my score down. Thank you.
Well, you can't bring your score down. Your score of 81 holds. So judges, will ask you to contemplate all the comments that were made and hold up your scorecard. This book stays at 76, professional practice. Good comments, judges, and I'll remind everybody out here this category is sponsored by Memento Pro. So for those in the audience, please be sure to visit Memento Pro after this review, and you guys have a chance to, they have offers of 50% off studio display albums, 30% swatch box deal, and a $500 voucher competition. So thank you, Memento Pro, and see Libby and Jeff. So next book, here we go. So by majority, this book scores 84, Silver Award. And we have a definitive challenge from Jackie Dean at 95. So she's seeking with a gold with distinction. And everybody else on the panel were pretty much all the same scores, except for Richard. But Richard. But I'll come back to you. I'd like to hear from Bill first. Oh, sorry, Jackie. My mistake. Sorry, Jackie first. Yeah, sorry.
I handed it to you.
Wow.
Why gold? Distinction.
A gold distinction. This so resonated with me, this book. I thought it was exquisitely put together. I really enjoy Japanese art, and the calligraphy through it is beautiful. The typesetting is just wonderful, and the storytelling. This is where are we? In the Shadow of the Leaves. It's about harikari, basically, and the history of that word going through to today. And I thought the images were lovely. The print quality it really fits this book, and the paper that has been used and the interleaved. I thought it was what have I said here? The paper choice and interleaves are stylish and appropriate, and the storytelling is absolutely superb.
Thank you, Jackie. Now I'll go to Bill.
So, Jackie, I agree with many of those things, and I so wanted to love this book because it's probably the most fully realized book that we've had in front of us today in terms of production, design, typography, layout, all of those things. But we're judging a photographic book here, and I found the photography really disappointing. So with apologies to the author if I have failed to understand, and I'd read quite thoroughly the different sections which are grouped thematically, I just felt that the photography itself really lacked imagination and didn't open a window into those themes for me the way that I expected that it might. Many of us have traveled in Japan many times, and it's a visual feast. You know, there's so many things, so many opportunities over there for interesting artistic photography, and I found this kind of descriptive without being overly interpretive. So I gave it a low silver simply for its production values, but I couldn't raise it any higher because I was disappointed in the photography itself.
Steve?
Yeah, I've just got something to add. I actually agree with both Bill and Jackie in regards to what has already been said. To me, I do feel that this is a great representation of the photographer's work, and sometimes it can be somewhat descriptive, which is great. One of the things that held me back, and I gave it a good solid silver, and the reason I couldn't perhaps go higher is that the actual paper type that was used, it was bleeding too much into the blacks, and it was actually blocking up a lot of the shadows. And it was unintentional, and I feel that that is what really held the production value down.
Now, Richard, you scored a silver distinction in here.
It's the highest score I've given to a book, this judging.
Well, there you go.
There you go. There's a thing called the philosophy behind the camera. And if you look at the photographs out there on the walls, they're all so very different. And they're the result of the philosophy behind the camera of the authors. It's their life experience, their travel experience, it's their religious upbringing, it's their interest in culture and travel and mystery, and some of the paradoxes of Japan, really, in this case, has all influenced the photographer. So rather than criticise the photography because it's not as you would have expected, look at it as an interpretation of the author's philosophy and experience. And it's about mystery of some of the customs of Japan. And the book has a very Japanese, it's an oriental feel about it, that soft rice paper, the matte paper, and the neatness and the attention to detail of the binding, the way space has been used, and blank pages and white has been used also to give weight to the image. And there's a great economy in the text that's been reduced to quotations and essential, and so the whole thing becomes a work of art. It's the sum of all of the things you have to determine when you make a book, and it's been put together and executed beautifully. There's a very sparse understatement about the pictures that encourages you almost like an invisible observer just to what's going on and around, and everything about this is so Japanese. I think it's wonderfully well done.
Very profound and succinct comments there. Yeah, Peter.
I take on board what you're saying, Richard. I guess the book talks about Bushido and the samurai and how perhaps that's no longer present visually in Japanese society, and yet my understanding, and I've only been there a few times, but it's an undercurrent, it's certainly there. And as I go through the book, I guess my interpretation is that look at the day-to-day, look what's there, but you don't necessarily see what it is that is being talked about. And so it does flow through into the photographs in a completely different way. I guess that what I felt was that the photos were congruent with the intent, but not necessarily exceptional. And that's possibly the whole point. If we're going to go and look at Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance and trying to get your aperture right, maybe that's part of what the photographer has tried to bring. And I think from that point of view, I mean, just looking again at the book, the pages being flipped over, the design is incredibly elegant. It is very Japanese in that way, and that's so well ordered. The way it has been put forward, I think I'm going to come up with my score. But I come back to the fact that it's a book. It's a book award, but we are predominantly rewarding the photography, and the photography is incredibly competent, but it's not exceptional, and I think that that's probably what held me back originally.
All right, well, back to Jackie now.
Well, to me, this is a very intelligent book, and maybe it's the paper choice that you feel is pulling the pictures down. The quality of who said it was bleeding, the black was bleeding, yeah. But, when these pictures are turned, it does something to me. I've found them really powerful. I've been to Japan. There's an undercurrent in that book. It's day-to-day living, but if you read the quotes, it just gels. And it's well deserving of a gold. This is a beautiful book. And can we have a look at the front cover? Just the design, and it's sumptuous, it's beautiful. And look at those lovely patterns. It's just an exquisite book. I'd love you to come up. Thank you.
Sumptuous. I love that word. All right, so it's scores by majority 84. So judges, please take all of those comments into consideration and show us your new score. Silver with distinction, 88. Beautiful comments from you guys. It's absolutely fantastic. From sumptuous to congruent. I'm trying to remember a few words that you said, but there you go.
I said great.
Is it great? Yeah. So very powerful judging, everyone. So fantastic. So next book, please. This book scores silver with distinction, 85. No challenges. So, Bill, you're nodding straight away.
I know several of us really like this book. I think it's an absolutely charming record of a day in the life of Dave. A days in the life of Dave, not just a day. It's Dave's life, told in its infinite sort of tedium and high points and low points, which probably aren't very separate from one another. Where am I here? It's an interesting and varied layout, really good introduction, so the text really supports what's going on. Clever and really nice use of social media vignettes throughout. It's actually a really poignant story. My criticism would be, and my comment for the photographer, for the author of this book, because she's both, not all of the pictures have strength. I think maybe a slightly tighter edit. There is some repetition in the book, and understanding comes through diversity. And if you see the same kind of picture 3 or 4 times, you kind of lose the plot a little bit. And maybe that goes along with this kind of lifestyle of an alcoholic who's constantly recovering and falling off the wagon. But I just felt a tighter edit would have benefited this very well. But there's a real charm about this that works. It's unique.
Richard? No, Peter? Richard? Yep.
You said my name before, Peter.
I did,
Yeah.
but he grabbed the mic, and I was just like...
He was passing the
saying,
mic.
Peter, give mic to Richard.
He was passing. You need to concentrate on what we're doing over here. Sorry. It took me a little while to cotton onto this book because I'm looking at the pictures and they seem to be all over the place. And then I realised that Dave's all over the place because of his drinking. And so if you look at pictures and think, well, maybe there's not enough diversity as, or whatever as Bill mentioned, I think that's all part of the story. And the way pictures turn up in random places on the page, it's all because the effects of alcohol have made Dave's life all over the page, and he can't hold it together and organise it properly, and that's why the pictures reflect that sense in the production, which is clever.
Great comments. Yeah, you got the mic now.
I've got a turn. Engrossing, engaging, complete.
Thank you for those comments. That's great. Steve, do you got anything you would like to add? Any?
Everything has actually been. Oh yeah. I'll get into it. I'll achieve it. No,
Everything's been said?
Incredible.
Yep. Great. So, again, silver with distinction, 85. Thank you, everyone. That's really good. Good to hear everybody's comments on there. So then this next book, we have No Challenges and 75. So I'm going to pick on somebody. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Peter.
I'm glad I've been elevated to Mo. There's some wonderful photography in this. Obviously the photographer is incredibly competent. Some of the places he's been are awesome. And as a calling card, it's fantastic. And to go along with this to any prospective client, they're going to fall over backwards and say, wow, this is great stuff. But when it comes to a book for the book awards, and I think that's what we're all in agreement here, we want more than just a portfolio, and we want to have an idea or a theme, or we want to have some sort of an interpretation. So this is a wonderful portfolio. It's right in the middle of professional practice. It's fantastic professional practice. You'll have no trouble being hired by a client. But when it comes to a book in the APPA Awards, where to get into the silver and the gold, we're wanting to have some sort of a concept beyond a collection of images, wonderful though they are.
Thank you very much, Peter. Go for it, Steve.
Yeah, just leading on from Peter's comments. Commend the photographer for the photography. I think now the development is to really piece together a narrative, a story, and to really follow through with a collection of images that work together as a body of work in a journey from start to finish.
Fabulous. Thanks for that. Anybody else want to? Everything's been said. Thank you, everyone. So that, again, 75. So it's the wonderful Jan. So thank you, Jan, for being our book turner and cotton gloves and all.
We will try and get you some tailored gloves for next year, however.
Thank you very much, Jan. A wonderful effort. So this book has a 84 silver award. 84. So no challenges. Everybody was, I mean, right on that 84 mark. But I will ask should we do comments and then challenge? I mean, no, whether it goes up or down. All right, so we'll have some comments, and I'm going to start off with. I'm going to start off with Peter, who scored at 81.
My notes were that, it's an excellent fit for purpose. Once you understand what it's all about in the story, the way it's been photographed, the reason that I went for a silver award was because the photographer has taken the brief and delivered. And there's everything in there that you could want in terms of from the photography all the way through to the final production. The photographs are of a high professional standard, and I guess the challenge that we've got again for being in the awards and what the judges traditionally perhaps give the higher accolades to is when they take it a step further. And I think for a book of this type and where you've got a client that's perhaps as structured as the client, there's only so far you can take things in a creative bent. And I think the photographer has really pushed the client as far as can be taken. That's how beautifully put together. That's how I saw it.
Great. Bill?
Yeah, supporting Peter, this is about as good as it gets for a conventional publication for an academic publisher, which is what it is. It's for a museum. And the photographer's really brought very, very high levels of professional skill to the work, and probably worked with the designer too to get the most out of the photography. It's a clean, clear explanation of what's going on, very consistent throughout, with wonderful portraiture, which is actually its point of difference.
Great. Anybody else want to say anything? No, everybody's been nodding all the way through those two comments there.
I think it's an invaluable book if you're studying PNG. So it's a wonderful collection of artifacts and great portraits.
Thank you. All right, judges. So as I said before, this book is a silver award at 84. So no challenges, but we do have a review. So let's have a think for a minute. And do we go to a silver with distinction, or do we stay at 84? We go up to a silver with distinction, 85. Well done. Well done. All right. Well done, everyone. So here we go. So next book, we have a 79. So we have no challenges, but can be for review. But we will have a few comments, and I will want to have a comment from Richard at 76.
That's better. That works better. I felt that some of the images lacked impact, and I thought the design was not consistent. I thought there were too many shapes involved, and different shapes and groups of shapes on different pages, and those shapes were not optimised to fit the images. The images were sometimes compromised to fit into those spaces, and I would have liked each picture of a motor car to be a little jewel, and I didn't feel that in every case the photography quite had the impact that it needed to. Sometimes time of day, often you need really shiny light and reflections and backlight and sparkles, and some of it didn't seem to be there.
Thank you very much, Richard. And can I have something from Jackie?
Oh, I thought this was a great book for boys with their toys. I really enjoyed the fact that the complete car was in the top, and then important bits that perhaps collectors are find important were featured. I thought it was actually a very consistent book with the layout, and I gave it a silver. I thought there was a strong communication for people who collect these things, and the layout was consistent.
Steve? Sorry.
Yes, just to add to all the comments, I really did think that the cover was really modern, clean, fresh and bold. However, when you started exploring more into the imagery, perhaps they needed to be a little bit more developed, and with the sentiments that Richard was saying, like the different times of day, and I know it's not always easy, a lot of these perhaps were at club events and things like that. However, a single shot of each car a complete single shot of each car would have also helped, where a lot of the pages, they were just details of the images. But overall, I think it's a great concept and well designed.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Bill?
Yeah, look, as a catalogue of automotive nostalgia, it's terrific, but I think it's a catalogue more than a book for me. It's very detailed. The little personal portraits and owner statements are really good. But as a book, I just think it lacks excitement, and it's quite static. And I know that it's a presentation of detail which means a lot to people who are going to be interested in this book. But I would love to have seen a few action shots. Get the owners in the car, get them out on the road. Show me, this is a book full of nouns. I want to see some verbs.
Thank you very much, Bill. All right, so as I said, this book scores a 79, and we will have a thumbs up or thumbs down whether it stays at 79 or goes to a silver award. So it stays at 79. Well, that concludes the book category. So thank you, judges. Thank you to all the entrants. And most importantly, I want to thank our sponsor, which is Memento Pro. So I'm sure everybody on this panel mostly has probably used Memento Pro once or twice. And so please pay them a visit. Anybody out there in the audience, pay them a visit as well. At the trade show here, we got 50% off studio display album, $30 swatch box deal, and a $500 voucher competition. So thank you very much, and that now concludes our judging of the book competition. And also, thank you to my assistant, Sue, and thank you to Jan. Yeah, I saw you eyeing me. I'm going to thank you, absolutely. So thank you for your book flipping. So that was well done. So thanks again, everyone. And till next year. That was flipping great. Flipping great.